cut it before I say good. No, cut it after I say goodbye. But before I say I'm going with the basics.
No, I'm going with the basics.
Okay,
who knows?
fine.
This is a problem for future me to
For
deal with.
future minute, yeah.
For
Okay.
2 weeks, Manu to deal with.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Overinspected, the greatest beekeeping podcast in the world. You've heard me say that, let's see, 3 times now, maybe 4 times. Anyways, I am your host, Michael Chai, and my co-hosts, Manu, aka FiKid0, and we also have Carrie, aka Carrie KH. That's a lot of A's that I'm saying there.
Hello again.
Is it a lot of A's?
Yeah.
Like Carrie,
I think so.
K-A... Oh, I see what you're saying.
A as in the vowels, like the pronunciation.
Right. Okay, fair
Yeah,
enough.
the vowels. Blame my parents, don't blame me.
Speaking of pronunciation, just something that me and Manu have been like kind of like dealing with in a sense, like when we were going to trivia night, we were at a bar, I think a couple weeks ago, and then there's this song portion of trivia, and we were talking about what it means to be a rhyme.
Oh, no.
Right? Look, we'll do a quick
This
example.
is the first time.
What it
no,
means to be
not
a rhyme.
this.
So we pulled up Eminem, "Lose Yourself," right? So what was the lyrics to how it goes?
It was spaghetti.
Mom's spaghetti.
It was rabbity and
Moms are
rabbit or
weak.
whatever.
Knees are weak.
Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit he. Is that a rhyme, Carrie?
It's a slant rhyme, right?
There we go.
What's a slant rhyme?
I explained this to you weeks ago. A slant
Well,
rhyme
but
is like a
isn't
fake
it-
rhyme. It's
So
like a
it's an
fake rhyme.
imperfect rhyme.
Yeah. I mean, it's been, 7 years since I was in high school. So I remember, like, English class, they talked about, like, slant rhyme is when it's not a perfect, like, the syllables don't exactly line up, but you have the same
syllables
vowel
line
sound.
up.
Oh,
The
no,
syllables
okay.
do line up, though. Gravity
Okay.
and rabbit he. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think you have the vowel sounds lining up,
Yeah, the
but the
vowel
consonants
sounds
are different.
Okay.
And I should go ask my friend Boy in a Bear, but actually,
Oh!
because I know that he's
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about this a lot.
Oh yeah, I watched Boy in a Band. That's cool.
Okay, well, maybe we can finally get a definitive answer to this dumb question.
Alright. Anyways, I was just trying to figure out if an imperfect rhyme is still called a rhyme. You know, but that was the little tangent there. Anywho, back to the topic at hand. Today's podcast episode, as you may be able to tell from the title, to you audio listeners and you video listeners, we're talking about competitions once again, but it's a little bit different. We're in a COVID world. Some could say in a post-COVID world. Round of applause, guys. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Round of applause.
I mean,
Kind of.
Okay, I
It's
guess to be
endemic.
honest, guy. Yeah, it's kind of it is endemic actually. Isn't that a phrase?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
what does
I think-
endemic mean? Like just within the area?
I think it's like in contrast to epidemic, which means it grows with each new day. Endemic means it's gonna like just stay constant each day.
Is
Yeah.
is the flu endemic?
Yeah, the flu is endemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also
well, I mean,
the
we still need to
opposite-
get our flu shots.
That's
Yeah.
I don't
true.
know. None of us are
But-
immunologists or virologists, so we have no idea what we're talking about as always.
But I mean, the point
Yeah.
of it, as you guys will probably be able to tie together, is how COVID-19 has affected competitions. But really, from a logistical standpoint, as an organizer and a delegate, what's kind of mind-blowing is how all the competitions that have been announced during this period of 2 years has been fulfilled, and filled to a max capacity within.
Instantly.
I would say 1 minute is an exaggeration, but it's not. That's the crazy part. So we're just
Yeah.
kind of discussing this a little bit more. Yeah. Oh, do you
Well,
have
I
any
think-
thoughts, Carrie?
I was just gonna say that it'll be interesting to hear you two's perspective on this, because I have never organized a comp, so I don't know what it's like on the other side of this process. But I'm curious because I do notice it filling up within a couple minutes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have you organized any?
Yeah, well, not any of the COVID comps, because I was not in California for a good majority, and now I'm back, but now I'm way too busy with work to organize anything. But what's crazy is the because I heard about this happening when the comps were first coming back. I think there were a couple comps early last year, early 2021. especially the Northeast ones, right? People were saying that the competitions filled up in 5 minutes. And so pre-COVID, this was basically never a problem. This never happened. And like, you know, even if like you had like a 200 person cap, even if you had like a 50 person cap, it would take a couple days. At like the fastest was like a couple days to fill up an entire competition of maybe 50 people. But these competitions were like 100, 150, then they were just instantly filled. So I first heard about it and I'm like, something is really, really weird here, because that's just not what people used to do. So what has changed?
Right. Well, first, what has changed? It's kind of, it's like two things happening and working together. So the first thing I think that has changed is we have more cubers, and we've talked about it a lot in COVID-19. With all the YouTube content that already currently existed for cubing, in fact, I think many people would argue that YouTube content probably plateaued even before the pandemic. Like, it plateaued in a sense of like just efficiency, releasing a bunch of videos that provide exposure to cubing, stuff like that, with all the YouTubers. And then, you know, those were videos that people would go to when they were bored at home in the pandemic. Everyone that I talked to, like on Twitch, for example, they'd be like, oh, I just started like 8 months ago. Oh, I just started two weeks ago. Stuff like that. You know, even today, like, oh, I just started cubing a few weeks ago. And it's just because of, you know, COVID forcing people to find something else to do and finding some interest. I mean, that's how all of us started, right?
Yeah.
With Rubik's Cubes.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, like I'm bored, or my parents were like, this kid is annoying, we need to get him to do something else, so let's just give him something to do. So and because all of it is already there, right? All the tutorials, everything, and it's not, I feel like it's different from when I started, which was like 2012, 2013, because the content that's out there is much more polished now. I remember back then there would be like maybe 3 videos that would tell you 3 different things on what to do. I remember, I think there was one video which was the Dan Brown video, which was very, very popular. Everybody watched that video back in the day. Everybody used that solving style. And then later on, I only found out, okay, like there's also like this video by this Bad Mephisto guy who we've talked about before, which was more of like a CFOP method. And then there was, I think there was another video I was watching, which was, I think that was my first introduction to like alternate methods, but that might have been a Petrus video. But in any case, like, you know, there were all 3 of these back in the day, and you couldn't really tell like which one was like best for beginners or not. But now there's like a lot more, I feel like everything is kind of condensed a lot more. Everything like fills into the CFOP funnel a lot better now. Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to also point out, just like to add some data to this whole argument. So
okay. Let's hear it. Yeah, perfect.
For Sack Cubing 11, I guess we can say that we're all going because it's public online.
Yeah, we are.
So I'm just looking at the competition website. It says that out of the 125 competitors, 57 are first timers.
Mm-hmm. Wait, can you repeat that? How many?
Out of 125, 57 are first timers, which is about a little less than half.
Half, yeah.
Yeah, just about half. So that's kind of crazy, because if you think about it, you only get to be a first timer for one comp.
Right.
So, like, you can kind of argue that maybe the number of competitors is sort of like doubling across COVID.
Right. It's half really crazy.
This is their first time.
Dude, it's totally insane, because when I heard about, you know, like competitions are instantly filling, right? The people who like new timers don't know what to do, right? Usually like I remember when I was like starting out, like I didn't know where to go to see like where the competitions were going to be uploaded. I just heard about it from someone at one comp that I went to. Oh, hey, there's going to be a comp that's sort of nearby, like a month from now or like 3 months from now. Here's the website, go and register. And only after like doing that for like, you know, 3 or 4 comps, I realized, they're all going to be on this website, so I can just check this website. But like for a new timer to be able to do that, and for this many new timers to be able to do it, it's just insane. Like, especially in the world where comps are filling within like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, like you have to be refreshing the page, and it's just like, okay, like I know that this competition is gonna happen. I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but I guess it's experience from getting locked out of other comps.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So that is the second part to this equation. One, we had more cubers, and I think the amount of the amount of new cubers we have is exponentially higher than before. Like the people that have coming in, it's just much more than how people used to flood in before. But the second part of this equation is actually something that like I understand, but if you guys ever heard of the proximity rule in the World Cube Association, so if you're familiar, it's not it's somewhere within the regulations about how often you can hold a competition, and it's based off of the amount of time that is elapsed, about 19 days, about the distance away it is, which is about 100 kilometers or such. I think there's precise numbers. I'm just going off the top of my head. We have to reference it a lot. But basically, if your competition breaks the proximity rule, you can't hold that competition. So the proximity rule is in place to kind of spread out the amount of competitions that we have. So I'm not a huge fan of the proximity rule. I think that at the end of the day is hindering what I want to do in terms of growing the Rubik's Cube community, but it cannot be denied that part of the reason that all the comps have been filling up so quickly is because during COVID, we didn't have that many competitions.
Yeah.
The
No
demand,
competitions.
the demand for competitions from the same people that are not new cubers is exponentially higher.
Right.
If I announce a competition in Wisconsin, people from California, people from New York, people from Florida, they're all going to try and register to try and fly in because that's the only comp that's going to happen.
Right. I think the other thing which plays into it is like, and not only are we having less competitions, not only are there more people who are either interested in coming to this competition because they're new, or interested in coming to this competition because we haven't had any, but the amount of people we can have in the space is also decreased because of COVID rules, right? Like I think in California or something, I don't remember the exact number, but the amount of people we could have in like any given space was cut by a factor of 2. So that means that if you could have a competition with 200 people, you can't have 200 people anymore. You can only have 100 people. So so that's like saying like, okay, like there was a competition that happened with 200 people. You pick one out of every second person, or like one out of every 2 people, and say, sorry, you're actually not allowed to compete, which is insane, right? Like it's an insane like level of like, okay, like you're not allowed to compete anymore. So I guess it's like it's a supply demand type thing where the supply is really, really low, the demand is really, really high. So then I guess like the value of the registration spot, if you want to think of it that way, has increased, which then makes you feel like, okay, like I need to be on it. I need to register quickly. I don't know. Very interesting phenomenon.
Well, I think this whole conversation is making me think about how cubing comps, compared to other hobbies or at least competitions, is pretty like open-ended in that anyone can just register. And I'm not saying we should do this, but I know that, you know, you can't just join like a chess championship if you're a newbie, right? Like you probably have to. Okay, you guys might know this more than me, but I'm sure in other hobbies you have to like prove that you're of a certain level and like qualify before getting.
I mean
in.
that's a thing in most places, and truth be told, that's a conversation that is like constantly held. We practice that for Worlds, Nats, Continentals.
True.
Like you can't just sign up for Megaminx as a first timer at Nats without a qualification result. Wait, right? I'm trying to remember the last Nats off the top of my head. I think so. There was a qualification for Nats.
I'm pretty sure all of us had some qualification.
Yeah, but anyways, I mean, lower than that, no. I think on the regional level, I don't see any qualifications implemented yet, but that is something that, you know, I mean, Carrie, you can continue, but yeah, definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should do that because it does kind of add to the level of elitism, and I think, you know, the only thing we're trying to do as SpeedCubers right now is to just grow the community and not make this new kid feel like they have another hurdle to jump over before they can get their first comp experience.
Right.
Yeah. But like, if you think about it, there just aren't many other places where like a 10-year-old kid can compete on the same stage as Max Park. That is quite inclusive. So you know, props to the community for being that open.
Yeah, I mean, the only other community I can think of which even comes close to that, I think in some Smash communities, and those are like really, really small locals. I think only then in those do you even have the chance to like play against like someone who's like, you know, like world ranked or whatever, just as a total rando, first time competing in a Smash tournament, first time even playing Smash. I think you have to have like no skill whatsoever. You just need to have your tag, and you can just show up. So I think, but even that is like a really, really small level. Like, but like for example, like all of those 57 first timers, right? All of them this weekend, or at least when we're recording this weekend, are going to compete with Max Park, right? Like, arguably the greatest cuber of all time, the greatest cuber right now, at least. So
they have the potential to beat him.
I mean, yeah, in some sense they do.
Well, I also think it's quite beautiful that we have a system in place where you can have people like I mean, she's on the ranking. I mean, we can have someone like a Heidi Chan. We can have a Brendan Dunnigan, right? Like,
oh yeah,
they just pop out of nowhere. Like,
right,
hey, I'm sub 7. you know, that I think is a very beautiful and organic thing. I mean, for example, I just held a competition in San Luis Obispo. Not my greatest competition, but there was this guy that got 90 something in the world for 5x5 average.
Yeah, that
is nuts.
Oh,
and then
great.
Yeah, that is nuts. And then like I'll expose myself a little bit here for that competition. He took it so serious, and this is something where I kind of see the growth of the community kind of turning more competitive, and it makes me feel a little bit queasy to think about. But that same kid got not so great an average in the finals, and he was crying profusely. And then for me, I felt so bad because I provided the space for that negative experience for him. It already was, I don't think, a very well-run comp, objectively speaking, and the kid was just bawling and crying, and it was like everyone could hear him. And like, he was a kid, he was like, I don't know, not very old, guys. You can imagine how they can cry and not be able to control themselves, or stuff like that. It's just emotional, right? And that's how cubing has become almost hyper competitive. So the same thing that allows that that beauty of just having this first timer be super competitive and surprise everyone, and just kind of like, I'm here. With that growth also comes the situation where people are extremely upset with their results, and this is like, that's not why I go to comps for the results for the most part, but I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like some amount of not with this particular person, but I wonder if there's some amount of play where it's like, okay, like if I register for this competition, and like I somehow get in, because it's difficult to be able to register for a competition nowadays. I wonder if it's just like, this is my chance, right? Whereas like it's like an opportunity, right? Where you have to consider like, okay, like the next comp is not going to come around for a while, and even if it does come around, like like 2-3 months from now, I might do all I can to register, but if the site crashes, or I'm a couple minutes late or whatever, you might not even be able to get in, no matter how good you are, right? So I wonder if that like, I guess like this competition overflow, which is what we're talking about, I wonder if that has to play in with any of this stuff.
No, like totally. And then you bring up a great point. For that person, their experience with cube competitions is, I'm going here, and I've been practicing for 6 months to go to this spot that I registered for. And then I'll have one more, maybe 2 months from now, and after that, I don't know. Right. Where in the past, that wasn't a problem. In fact, in the past, we held a comp like more than once a month sometimes, and we would have a spreadsheet of all the events that we would do, so we would hold each one with a proper distribution. So competitors wouldn't have to worry about that, having more competitions. So this is all that kid knows. This is the only competition experience that he knows so far, and that's part of the reason that I'm just like, I feel like, dang, this is so bad.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing is like, for us, because we've been in the community for many years, we've helped like run competitions, things like that. We know a lot of staff. For us, like, we know that like, more comps are coming. We're not deliberately trying to not hold competitions, right? But I guess like on the inside is very different than being on the outside looking in, where it's like, okay, like there's like the air of uncertainty, right? It's like, what is going on? Like, I don't know when the next thing is going to happen. If it does, will it be close to me? I mean, there's that, right? And then it's also just like, the other thing is like, if you're a kid, like, are my parents free to drive me there? Like, will they be able to stay with me there? Things like that. So, a lot of factors go in. But in any case, I feel like the whole competition overflow is strictly bad, in my opinion. I can't really think of a good reason for it to be good.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I think this is sort of maybe talking about a slightly earlier topic, but I was thinking about how you said that, before COVID, we never had a problem of competitions overflowing. Or no, I guess more about like kids signing up for a competition thinking this is my one and only chance for the next 6 months or something. I think it's interesting to think about how back in like 2003, like right at the beginning of the WCA, it was probably similar because back then the community was so small that they just couldn't, or I guess like there just wasn't the sort of demand to host competitions a lot. So it's interesting that the community growing for the first decade caused there to be, you know, more opportunities for cubers, but now it's grown to the point that like that reversed somehow.
I mean, I think I think it's very easy just to blame everything on COVID, right? It's just like it's your fault. If you hadn't come into this, things would be so much easier. Because I mean, it is true that like because there's so much more opportunity, so many more people are in the community. I feel like that it's also built more opportunities, right? It's like the more people who are into cubing means that like, you know, more people are interested in helping out like competitions, and those people are interested in maybe organizing competitions, and then eventually like down the road becoming delegates, you know, like financing competitions, things like that. So I feel like it kind of grows on itself.
So like it should all scale at the same proportion. Like
that's what it should be. But
well, I mean, this is kind of messed up to say, but you know, I think that cubing almost benefited from the COVID-19 pandemic in a sense of how the community will ultimately nourish from it, right? Now, obviously, like the pandemic, it was like a ton of bad stuff happening. A lot of people lost family members and stuff like that. But cubing was highly profiled by a lot of people. There was these things where we had the cubing at homes. That's where like the Red Bull collaboration really started to flourish, right? And then I'm personally of the belief, and Twitch grew because of the pandemic, but I'm of the belief that Twitch content for cubing is actually the next step in content creation for cubing. That's just my personal belief. And then Twitch, I think the Twitch community and the cubing community could kind of like coexist in a sense, and I see that in the future. Shameless plug. It's just growing pains. Right now we're at the what's it called, the inflection point of like it being difficult and easy. Right now we're at that inflection point where it's at its hardest, but we're going through it right now, and we're about to like really hit our stride as the world continues to slowly go back to a sense of normalcy. I just wanted to shout out real quick, NorCal has been consistently busting out competitions now, and it's been better, but I wanted to shout out the Rocky region, specifically Utah and Calvin, the delegate, main delegate over there, because they've been busting out competition like no one's business. They've been one of the first to really consistently break that barrier and really not suffer from that delegate fatigue, stuff like that. Also, shout out to the Southeast region. The Southeast did have quite a few competitions, even at a smaller scale. It's just getting the movement, getting everyone back into the routine of competitions. Like, huge shout out to those two regions.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, like, because especially with NorCal, you know, we're all like coming back into it now too. It really makes you feel like, okay, like this is like the first step back towards normalcy. But then again, that's also what we thought about 9 months ago. So I guess we'll little tempered expectations.
Omicron was aggressive. I mean, it had no business being that aggressive.
Yeah, it was very rough for a lot of people, and of course for cubing as well. I think in NorCal we had a couple competitions planned. I think we had 2 competitions planned in January, but yeah, they just got axed.
Yeah, well, so let me think. So long story short, we talked about how the demand has gotten a lot bigger because we have more cubers, right? And we have less competitions. I did want to go over a little bit just how logistically it was being dealt with. So obviously we mentioned how competitions would fill up within 5 minutes, 1 minute sometimes, and the caps are like 50. And then we're supposed to accept registrations based off of like first come, first serve. There are certain extenuating circumstances, stuff like that. But as an organizer, to get all those emails, to click approve on all the ones.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, what the heck? You had to plan your whole day around your registration open day.
Right.
Like you had to, if you were 5 minutes late to your registration being open, your whole, like, people would sign up to the competition thinking that there was space, but not knowing that there's like 200 people that's just on the wait list because no one's clicking accept. Like, it is so messed up.
Yeah, so I remember in the old days, the days before COVID, you know, like, it was so much easier to be an organizer because you open registration, and then within of the first couple hours, you get a lot of people like registering in the first couple hours. But it's, first of all, it's the first couple hours. It's not the first couple minutes. And even then, like, you can like more or less like quickly sift through them and figure out what's going on. You can also just leave them. Just leave it for the next day. You know, you're busy. Just come back the next day. Have a bit of time. You can look through them pretty quickly. And then after that, you know, there's maybe just like 1 or 2 registrations roll in, and sometimes they're like very straightforward. You know, the competitor registers, they put in whatever events they want, they've paid the registration fees. Okay, it's just done. Except just go on. Like, you can do it very, very quickly. You can do it from your phone even. So I remember like those are like, I guess, like comparatively way easier than having to deal with like 100 emails, 200 emails, people like on the wait list. They don't know that they're on the wait list, you know, having to deal with all of the registration fees like sliding around here and there. People get confused, people having to cancel, pulling people from the wait list. That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's a way to automate some of this. I mean, I guess that requires more like programming and like restructuring the website. But
isn't there a setting where like you can auto accept people who pay, I think?
Really? I never.
Maybe there isn't. That. Maybe I'm just making this up.
Well, no. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know it. And then knowing me, there's many things I don't know, especially about website implementation. Like, I'm very clueless about that stuff. So, I mean, I could be wrong.
I have no idea. But I just remember we used to do it by hand. A couple years ago. I mean, I would not be surprised if it's still done by hand, but I don't know. Maybe that's like one solution, right? Is like, you know, you have all these people registering. Obviously, also the site takes a huge hit whenever.
Oh my god!
Whenever registration opens.
That's the other problem. You'll just get emails and you'll get complaints from people. Dude, oh my god. Sorry. Go ahead. You can explain it.
So in case like, you know, you haven't been to a competition recently, or tried to register for a competition at least. Basically, like, so let's say like the competition opens at 5 p.m. Okay, great. So usually what you would do is like you would go onto the website, you would just put in your information. It's just like, I want to register for these events, and you hit register, you pay the dues, you're done. The problem is with all of these people trying to access the website at around like, you know, the same like minute. So there's just a lot of requests that are coming in, and the server needs to serve the web page to everyone while keeping everyone like synchronized with what's happening, right? You don't want to tell one person like, oh yeah, there's actually like 10 spots, and the other person that there are actually 0 spots when there are reality 5 spots, right? Like you don't want to have like the weird like asynchronous issues. So you need to like give everybody the correct information of what's going on at any given time. There's a lot of like back and forth happening. All of it leads to a ton of lag. Nowadays, you want to hit register. If you do it 1 minute before, everything loads just fine. You know, it's your typical web page. No matter how good your internet speed, you want to do it 1 minute after, you're going to be stuck there for at least a minute, if not longer, just waiting for this page to load. Then you finally submit your registration. Then you have to wait for that to load. And all this time you're thinking, okay, like, this has been loading for minutes. Did my registration go through or not? Then you have to wait for the payment. Then you have to wait for the payment to load. Then it's just like, okay, like, what is going on? I don't even know which parts of those steps of the registration failed, which didn't fail. You know, I've been sitting here for 5 minutes. What is going on? All of it, like, it might not be that bad at the end of the day, right? Like, it's just 5 minutes of your time. You know, you could go do something else. Go make yourself a sandwich or something. But it's just a bad experience, right? It's a bad experience registering for a competition. It's just like, you expect it to be, it's all done online. You know, it's all done, at least submitting the registration, forget about getting it accepted or not, is all done electronically. There's no one that's like, there's no guy that's sitting there. It's like, okay, like, hello, person A, okay, now like this has been officially submitted. So you expect it all to happen instantly, but when it doesn't happen, and you just see the stupid web page loading, it's just like, okay, like what is going on? Which I think is really, really bad. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know what kind of steps the WCA took to improve it. I don't know if they did anything. Maybe they did. I have no idea.
I mean, yeah, just listening to this, it does sound like a self-perpetuating problem, because I know that when a website lags for me, I'll try to refresh it, but then that adds more calls to the website.
It's another
so it's like a snowballing thing. I mean, I'm just sort of like brainstorming just out there ideas, and what I'm thinking now is the main problem is that everyone is trying to get in right at like 5:01 p.m. like right at the like when the clock hits. I wonder if there's some way to like stagger it out, so it's like people whose last name starts with A, you register at like 5 o'clock, and then if it's B, then it's like 5:01.
Right. I was thinking about this.
Like somehow just
oh man.
Like what is the solution, right? Like is there a solution? Like is it maybe like okay, like the number of people who bookmark the page versus don't bookmark the page, or like, you know, we're only going to accept like 50 submissions in the first 10 minutes, or like like is there a solution?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I didn't want to assume, but I would imagine the easiest way to make it non-exclusionary in a sense, expand the server size. I'm not sure what that necessarily means. Like, pay more for more of your domain or something like that. I don't know how it works. Is that an option?
I feel like it should be, because I'm thinking there aren't more than... Okay, I mean, this is a lot, but I can't imagine there's more than like 300 people trying to fit into like a 100-person comp. And I feel like most major websites should easily be able to handle like even 300 people at once. But I am saying like major website in quotes. So I don't know what is happening with the WCA website behind the scenes, and like whether they have their own servers or they're like renting out like AWS or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it's
and by the way, not to diss on the software team. The software team makes a lot of really, really cool stuff. Everything is made by the software team. It's just like a problem that they were not built to deal with, right?
And they're volunteered.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like they're working for free, guys.
They're just putting in like out of a passion project. You know, they built this thing that survived for what 15, 20 years at this point.
And it's been making like a lot of improvements, right? It's like I remember.
It's very good.
I mean, remember the old competition websites, right? Where you'd have to do it. You couldn't even do it on the WCA website. You would have to like link the WCA website page would just be a link basically to another website where you would actually submit the registration.
It
would all appear there. It was. I mean, that's just how it was done in the day. But like looking back at it now, it's like, why would we do that? Like. Obviously, it just makes sense. Everything just happened on the website, but obviously that took a lot of work.
Well, I mean, just something else, Carrie, to highlight the experience that Manu was talking about. It wasn't only the people that were looking to register, but it was the experience that the organizers were experiencing when we tried to go in to accept the registrations. We couldn't open the page. And the other issue is people trying to register for other comps, or people just trying to browse the competition page on the WCA. You couldn't open the website. It was really bad.
I mean, no, that makes sense, because the website just being used by a lot of people at once. But I am imagining that the people who are just like browsing the website, if you like graph, you know, the activity over time, it should be like pretty constant throughout the day. But then you get these huge spikes, maybe like every hour, like on the like top of the hour when some competitions will open.
Makes sense.
I was trying to think of something.
I guess if you just waved a wand and had more servers, that would help. But like, obviously, it's not as simple as just getting. More
I don't know. And the thing is, I'm not sure if we will have issues like this in the future, because as we've been mentioning, like cubing is growing, right? One good thing about cubing growing is that there are more competitions, which I think is a good thing. You know, more opportunities for people to get in the scene. But one thing that is not growing is, or at least is not growing at, I think, at the same pace, is major competitions like size. So we're talking like national championships, continental championships, world championships, right? I think I think Worlds 2023 is supposed to be only like 1,000 limit, whereas like if it were held in Chicago, I think it was going to be like 2,000 or something, or it was going to be larger. In any case, like clearly we are not, the cubing community is not scaling at the same rate as the world's capacity. So I don't know. This is just a total I'm totally surmising here. It seems like at some point we might reach a point where it's like, okay, like a lot of people want to register for Worlds, Nats, Continental Championships, and there isn't that much space. People know that there isn't that much space. So then, okay, everyone's gonna try and get in on the first minute to try and secure their own spot. But then that, we're gonna have all these problems again, which may or may not. Like, I feel like that's something that we might need to deal with. So I don't know. There might be a solution. Maybe there isn't a solution. Maybe we just need to beef up the compute power.
Right. I mean, I feel like once you get to sort of the 2,000 person level, you just start running out of venues that can even fit that many people.
True.
And also, like, the fact that judges and runners have to like call people's names, if you're like calling across a giant, I guess like for Worlds, people have like the listed what do you call it, like a station that you have to go to compete, so it's not like they're just being called out of the blue. But I think when you have too many people and you're trying to hunt down this one competitor who hasn't showed up yet, like that doesn't scale very well to that many people.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a non-concern. Maybe at that point, cubing has become big enough to the point where we can just get more expensive venues, which have a lot more people. Maybe in 40 years or something, instead of having like a 2,000 person Worlds, we'll have like a 10,000 person Worlds. Okay, that's probably ridiculous, but I mean that would be amazing to see, right? 10,000 people competing at Worlds, and those are just competitors.
Yeah. I mean, with the Worlds capacity, I mean, you could make an argument that, in theory of how Worlds works, that why would we increase the competitor cap? Because there's qualifications to them as well, right? And then like you have to be at a certain caliber to compete. So you could even argue that you could keep Worlds that way. But I remember in a previous podcast I brought the idea of maybe separating what a Worlds is and a convention kind of deal. So maybe you could make that open registration I don't know, in a future 100,000 person registration limit, which is like ridiculous. You can make it a convention and then make Worlds the Worlds. And I guess in terms of growth, there's a lot of things that you could do, but I mean, that's where I come back to Twitch. We could do like e-broadcast, for example. We could turn it into an e-sport. There's a lot of fun stuff when you get to that level, but
this is a little far in the future. Maybe
a little bit far in the future. It's a little bit off topic, but I mean, that's where growth is headed, so it's not quite off topic per se.
Sure, I'll take it.
I don't know. I think this was I don't really have anything else to mention about registration overflow. Do you guys?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of the main points, a lot of the bad things. Hopefully, the one thing you take away from this episode, competition overflow is bad. Well, we bad when it's like overflows instantly. Obviously, it's fine to have like wait lists and stuff, but we don't want people thinking that like, okay, like this is their one and only chance and stuff like that. In other words, we want to like, I guess, kind of decrease the value of a registration spot.
Yeah. Just not make it so intense, like make or break.
Yeah, this is like a little bit of an organizer delegate deep dive, a little bit of how we feel about the situation, how we deal with it, but also just in general, this is not a forever problem. Like I said, I don't think this is going to be a problem as we have more competitions. As we, roll back into full steam ahead with the whole, the country, the World Cube Association as a whole, I don't think this is going to be an issue forever. And we're just going to have our consistent growth that we had pre-COVID as well.
Even faster than maybe pre-COVID.
Yeah, maybe even faster. And that's a good thing. So we're getting there, guys.
Yeah, I have faith.
All right. So I guess that's it, guys. Thank you for listening to Overinspected episode 12, I guess.
Yeah. 12?
Yes, episode 12.
I think so. At this point, we're
I just realized.
If you made it this far, guys, you guys are real OGs. Shout out to all your subs. If you haven't subbed, sub. If you haven't clicked like on this, smash the like button.
Please.
All right. And this is Overinspected. Deuces.
Over and out.
Goodbye. I guess I'm going with a basic.